Hey, busy bees. Today we are back with another chapter in our Dan Gutman book. We are reading the My Weird School series, book 1, Miss Daisy is Crazy. So, yesterday we read about chapter 5 on how they wanted to be able to buy the school and make it into a video game arcade. Today we're going to go and read about chapter 6. So, what do you want to be? And this is going to be our last chapter before the weekend. And then starting Monday, we will start with, I believe, it's chapter 8. So today we'll read 6 and 7 together. What do you want to be? Chapter 6. At the end of the day, Miss Daisy sat on the floor and we all sat around her. She told us to talk about what we want to be when we grow up. I want to be a veterinarian, said Andrea Young. Does anyone know what the word veterinarian means? I asked Miss Daisy. That's somebody who doesn't eat meat, said Michael Robinson. It is not, I said. That's a vegetarian. A veterinarian is somebody who fought in a war. That's a veteran, Miss Daisy said. Andrea, would you like to tell the class what a veterinarian does? A veterinarian is an animal doctor. That Andrea Young thinks she knows everything. But for once, I knew she was wrong. Animals can't be doctors, I said. Everybody laughed, even though I didn't say anything funny. Miss Daisy said, a veterinarian is a doctor who takes care of animals. That made a lot more sense than that dumb thing Andrea said. Emily was next, and she said she wanted to grow up and become a nurse in a hospital. Why do you want to do that? I asked. People come into hospitals all sick and injured, their arms falling off, their guts hanging out. AJ, Miss Daisy said in her serious voice. Emily got all upset and ran out of the room crying. What did I say? I asked. What do you want to be when you grow up, AJ? Miss Daisy asked. I'm going to be a famous football player, I said. Really? And why do you choose that field? Because I love football, I said. And if I was a football player, I wouldn't have to read or write or do arithmetic or go to school. My friend Billy told me that football players are really dumb. Your friend told you that? Said Miss Daisy. Yeah, Billy is really smart. He also told me that if you dig a hole deep enough, you can dig all the way to China. And if you fall into that hole, you fall all the way through the earth and pop right out the other side. And you'd be moving so fast that you'd shoot all the way into outer space. Michael Robinson said that sounded cool. He decided that instead of becoming a firefighter, he wanted to become one of those hole-digging astronauts. Emily came back into the room with a tissue. Everybody else went around in a circle saying what they wanted to be. This girl named Lindsay said she wanted to be a singer. Ryan said he wanted to be a businessman like his dad. Andrea Young said that if she couldn't be a veterinarian, she wanted to be a teacher like Miss Daisy. Then she gave Miss Daisy a big smile. I hate her. And that is the end of chapter 6. So in chapter 6, they talked about what they wanted to be when they grow up. What do you want to be when you grew up? That is something to think about. Chapter 7, Bonbons and Footballs. The next day, Miss Daisy brought in a box with ribbons on it and told us she had a surprise. What's in the box? We pleaded. It's a secret. Please. Well, okay, she said, opening the box. It's bonbons, Miss Daisy said. She thought we might be able to use them for arithmetic problems so we could learn together. She put the bonbons on the table in the front of the room. There must have been 20 or 30 of them. Can somebody think up an arithmetic problem using bonbons? She asked. Andrea? If you had 3 bonbons in a box, said Andrea as she put 3 bonbons into her pencil box, and you had 3 boxes just like that, how many bonbons would you have altogether? Miss Daisy looked at Andrea's pencil box for a long time, counting in her head and on her fingers. Any dummy would know that 3 boxes with 3 bonbons in each box would equal 9 bonbons. 3 times 3 is 9. But Miss Daisy didn't seem to know that. Finally, she just opened up Andrea's pencil box and popped the 3 bonbons into her mouth. Who cares how many bonbons I would have? She asked. As long as I get to eat some of them. Miss Daisy really needs a lot of help with arithmetic. After she had eaten her bonbons, Miss Daisy passed out bonbons for all of us, and we had a bonbon party. Then she said that was enough arithmetic for the day and asked what we wanted to talk about for the rest of our math time. Football! I shouted. Miss Daisy didn't like that I talked without raising my hand first. Personally, I don't see what raising my hand has to do with talking. I don't talk with my hands. But she did let me talk, and I told her that football is just about my favoriteest thing in the world, and I know all about it. My dad takes me to every game of the Chargers, a professional football team. Maybe you can help me, Miss Daisy said. I always wondered how long is a football field. 100 yards, I told her. Anybody knows that. Wow, that's a big field. With a field that big, how can you and your father see what's going on? My dad always tries to get us seats near the 50-yard line, I said. They're the best tickets. Why? Miss Daisy asked. Because the 50-yard line is right in the middle of the field. Does that mean that half of 100 yards would be 50 yards? She asked. Yep, I see, Miss Daisy said. So if you know there are 100 yards on a football field, do you know how many pennies there are in a dollar? Andrea? 100, hollered Andrea Young. Just like a football field. Really? Said Miss Daisy. So if half the football field is 50 yards, how many pennies are in half a dollar? 50, Michael Robinson shouted. Because 50 is half of 100, and 50 plus 50 makes 100. And half of 50 must be 25, because 2/4 is 50 cents, added Emily. And 4/4 makes $1, Ryan exclaimed. And 4/4 makes a football game too, Miss Daisy shouted, jumping up and down with excitement. Wait a minute, I said. I thought you told us we were finished with arithmetic. This wasn't arithmetic, she told us. It was football. Well, okay, I said, just as long as you weren't trying to sneak arithmetic into our conversation about football. Would I do that? Miss Daisy asked, and then she winked at me. Sometimes it's hard to tell if Miss Daisy is serious or not. And that is the end of chapter 3. So today we talked about what they would like to be when they grow up. And then Miss Daisy got very creative in math. She almost made it seem like they weren't learning, and she wasn't learning about what they knew. Isn't that a fun way to be able to learn? That's something to think about. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you'd like to follow along with the next chapter, then hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good weekend.